Two bands, one argument, zero easy answers. The Beatles and the Beach Boys both built their entire identities around harmony. Not just catchy melodies, vocal stacking so precise it rewired what pop music could sound like. But which band actually did it better? We're judging on vocal complexity, studio craft, emotional range, songwriting, and lasting influence. So here's the first thing that makes this hard. These two bands didn't just compete, they pushed each other into their own greatest work. Pet Sounds, Revolver both exist because of this rivalry. We'll go round by round: vocal blend, studio innovation, emotional power, live execution, and legacy. 5 categories, 1 unresolved argument. The argument that could decide the whole debate: which band actually wrote songs where the harmony itself was the point, not just the decoration. Round 1, natural vocal blend. And this is where the Beach Boys opened strong. Brian Wilson, Carl Wilson, Mike Love, Al Jardine, and David Marks grew up harmonizing together, some of them literally in the same house. That blend wasn't rehearsed, it was absorbed, the same rooms, the same voices aging together. The Beatles were 4 distinct voices: John's rawness, Paul's sweetness, George's warmth, contrast built into their foundation. That contrast is actually a strength. Distinct voices resolving into harmony hit harder than a seamless blend. But the Beach Boys didn't have contrast, they had pure, seamless blend. 5 voices dissolving into one liquid instrument no one else could replicate. Here's what casual fans often miss. Blend and harmony are not the same thing. Harmony is about intervals, blend is about timbre. The Beach Boys had both. The Beatles had strong harmony, but 4 such distinct voices never fully dissolved into one, and that difference is real. Round 1 to the Beach Boys, but the Beatles haven't played their strongest card yet. Round 2, which band actually wrote songs designed from the ground up for the human voice? Brian Wilson composed vocal parts like a classical arranger, counter melodies, suspensions, resolutions, treating the ensemble as the primary instrument, not the band. God Only Knows has a vocal architecture that still leaves trained musicians stunned 50 years later. But McCartney wrote melodies so natural they feel like they always existed. Yesterday, Blackbird, The Long and Winding Road, no harmony required to be complete. Wilson wrote for the ensemble, McCartney wrote for the melody. Both are genius, but they're solving entirely different problems. Then Lennon takes it somewhere else entirely. Because From Abbey Road stacks 3-part harmonies so tightly the result sounds like a keyboard, not 3 human beings. What musicians notice: the Beatles could shift harmony roles mid-song, lead becoming support, support becoming lead, without the listener ever feeling the change. Wilson's genius was architectural. He designed the harmony first. Lennon and McCartney's genius was inevitable. The harmony arrived because the song demanded it. If you're the type who has opinions about this stuff, you should join Music Debate Wars. It's free. The link is in the description and the comments, and your takes are welcome. Round 2 is a split, and that split will shape everything that comes after. Round 3, studio innovation. This is where history gets genuinely complicated. Pet Sounds used the studio as an instrument, orchestral arrangements, bicycle bells, bass harmonicas, and vocal overdubs that pop music had simply never attempted before 1966. Paul McCartney reportedly heard Pet Sounds and called it the greatest album ever made. That quote matters. Sgt. Pepper arrived the following year. The Beatles heard Pet Sounds and raised the stakes for the entire world of popular music. But here's the twist. Smile collapsed under creative pressure and stayed unreleased for 4 decades. The Beatles had no comparable collapse. They kept evolving. Revolver, Sgt. Pepper, The White Album, Abbey Road, each one a completely distinct experiment. Wilson's work was emotionally vulnerable. The Beatles was intellectually adventurous. Both changed rock for different reasons. Pet Sounds sounds like longing, Sgt. Pepper's sounds like curiosity. Same era, completely different missions. Round 3, edge to the Beatles, but the Beach Boys made the era's most influential album. That counts. Round 4, emotional range, and this is where the Beatles begin to pull ahead. The Beach Boys mastered one emotional frequency, yearning. Sun, summer, lost innocence, and an aching desire for something just out of reach, beautiful but narrow. Good Vibrations pushed beyond that frequency, but one experimental single is in a catalog-wide emotional shift. The Beatles wrote about loneliness, revolution, death, confusion, and spiritual searching, sometimes on the same album side. From Love Me Do in 1962 to A Day in the Life in 1967, 5 years, staggering difference. But Beach Boys defenders will rightly argue, depth in one lane beats shallow coverage of many. God Only Knows hits harder emotionally than almost anything the Beatles ever put on tape. That argument is defensible, but across a full catalog, the Beatles touched more human experiences more honestly, more often. Round 4 to the Beatles, and the catalog argument is starting to build real momentum. Round 5, live performance, and here both bands have something they need to answer for. The Beatles stopped touring in 1966, the studio complexity couldn't be reproduced live, and screaming crowds made it impossible to even hear themselves play. That decision was honest and arguably correct, but it left a permanent gap in the live dimension of their legacy. The Beach Boys kept performing for decades. As Brian Wilson stepped back, the live act became something genuinely separate from the studio project that made them famous. Carl Wilson's live vocals through the 1970s were legitimately one of the most underrated instruments in rock. Here's what gets missed. The rooftop concert in January 1969, raw and unplanned, showed exactly what the Beatles could have been as a live act. Don't Let Me Down on the Rooftop is as raw and alive as live rock music gets. The Beach Boys logged more nights on stage than almost anyone, but the magic that made them special lived in the studio, not on tour. Round 5 is a draw. Both bands left live value on the table, neither gets a clean win. Round 6, influence, and here the scale tips clearly, though not by as much as people tend to assume. Pet Sounds influenced Radiohead, The Flaming Lips, and nearly every producer who attempted orchestral pop. That's documented, traceable lineage. But the Beatles influenced the structure of popular music itself. Every band that ever rehearsed in a garage, wrote their own songs, and broke up too young did it in the image of the Beatles built. The Beach Boys influenced a genre, the Beatles influenced an entire era of human culture. The precise distinction, Pet Sounds is cited more often by musicians, Abbey Road is cited more often by bands, that tells you exactly who each inspired. The Beach Boys made better musicians, the Beatles made more musicians. Those are genuinely different kinds of impact. Round 6 to the Beatles, but the margin is genuinely closer than the cultural history books tend to suggest. Round 7, catalog consistency. How deep does the greatness actually go across the full body of work? The Beach Boys' greatest work is concentrated in a 5-year window, 1963 to 1968. The catalog outside that window is uneven. Kokomo reached number 1 in 1988. That's a real data point when arguing catalog consistency. The Beatles recorded for 6 years and never made a bad album. Every record pushed forward. But the Beach Boys' peak is higher. Pet Sounds may be the closest thing to a perfect record that rock music has ever produced. The argument that one perfect record outweighs 12 great ones is a legitimate aesthetic position, a genuine philosophical divide in how we judge art. Catalog consistency rewards the Beatles, peak achievement rewards the Beach Boys. Which standard you apply decides the entire debate. Depending on which standard you hold, peak or consistency, you will arrive at a completely different conclusion about who wins this debate. Round 7 is split, and that split is exactly the point this entire debate has been building toward. Here's where this lands, not with a winner, but with a sharper question. If harmony means precision, architecture, and pure vocal blend, the Beach Boys built something the rest of rock music has never come close to replicating. If harmony means emotional range, songwriting depth, and influence that reshape what music could be, the Beatles cover more of that ground and reach further. These bands didn't just compete, they completed each other. Pet Sounds pushed the Beatles towards Sgt. Pepper, Sgt. Pepper pushed Wilson towards Smile. The greatest harmony music of the 20th century exists because of that exchange. Do you want the band that perfected harmony or the band that exploded what harmony could mean and pulled music into territory it had never touched? Drop your answer in the comments because this debate does not end here.